1514. What if a prophecy wrote the future? Pope Leo X opens a forbidden prophecy, a document he was never supposed to read. It has his name in it. His. It predicts, with terrifying accuracy, the exact year the Church will split. 4 years later, Martin Luther shatters Christianity. The Reformation. The prophecy was right. So Leo issues a secret order. Find every copy, burn them. But one survived, hidden for 500 years, and what it says about today is the part they still won't reveal. Tonight, we open it.
Imagine the Vatican archive. Stone walls, cold. The smell of parchment, old and dry. Torchlight, flickering on endless shelves. 75 kilometers of secrets, most sealed, some forbidden. And then, in a corner, few have seen. There's a chamber, no windows, no nameplate, just a door with a lock that hasn't turned in centuries. Inside, manuscripts that were never meant to survive. Prophecies, visions, warnings, written by monks, by mystics, by those who claimed they'd seen the future. Most were harmless, poetic, symbolic, but one was different. It didn't speak in riddles. It named dates. It named popes. It named the end. And in 1514, when Pope Leo X took the throne, he read it. And then he ordered it destroyed. Let's go back. 1498, Florence, Italy. A monastery, quiet and hidden in the hills. A monk named Girolamo. Not famous, not powerful, just devoted. He spent his evenings in the scriptorium, copying texts, translating old prophecies from Greek, from Latin, from Aramaic. And one night he found something, a fragment, incomplete, written on parchment so old it crumbled at the edges. The handwriting was ancient. The language, a dialect of Latin no one spoke anymore. But Girolamo could read it. And what he read made him stop breathing. It was a vision, a prophecy, written according to the manuscript, by a hermit in the 4th century. A man who'd lived in a cave, who fasted for months, who claimed an angel had shown him the future of the church. Not a distant future, not the end of the world, but the next 1,000 years, century by century, pope by pope, council by council. And it was specific, not vague symbols, not metaphors. Names, dates, events. Girolamo sat there, in the candlelight, reading line after line, his hands trembling, because he recognized the names. Pope Gregory VII, the investiture controversy, the split with Constantinople, all predicted centuries before they happened. He cross-referenced it with the records he had and realized it had been accurate. Every single prediction up to his present day had come true. The split between East and West, the rise of powerful popes, the corruption in the curia, the selling of indulgences. All of it predicted, written down centuries before it happened. But the prophecy didn't stop at 1498. It continued into the 1500s, the 1600s, beyond. And what it said about the church, about the popes to come, about the institution itself, was terrifying. Girolamo made a copy by hand, every word, every date. It took him 3 weeks, working in secret in the hours before dawn when no one else was awake. He sealed it in leather binding, hid it in the monastery library. Then he did something dangerous. He sent a letter to Rome, to the Vatican.
I have found a prophecy. It speaks of popes to come. It speaks of trials ahead. The Holy Father should know.
The letter reached Rome. It was read. And within a month, Vatican officials arrived at the monastery. They didn't ask for the manuscript. They demanded it.
Girolamo handed it over, believing he was serving the church, believing they would study it, pray over it, prepare, but they didn't study it.
They brought it to Pope Alexander VI, the Borgia Pope, corrupt, ruthless, a man who had bribed his way to the papacy. He read the prophecy, and what he saw was his own name
listed among the popes who would disgrace the throne of Peter.
The prophecy didn't just predict the future, it judged it. It called out corruption. It named the sins of the institution. It warned that if the church did not reform, it would collapse from within. Not by heresy, not by enemies, but by its own moral rot. It described popes who would sell sacred offices, who would father children, who would wage wars in Christ's name. It named the decade when the church would split, when a monk in the north would challenge Rome,
when princes would turn away.
And it said something else, something that made Alexander's blood run cold, that the papacy itself, the throne of St. Peter, would become powerless, not destroyed, but diminished. Symbol without substance, a title without authority. Alexander knew. He knew he was part of that rot, so he locked the manuscript away in a vault beneath the Vatican, in a place only the Pope could access. And he gave an order. No one speaks of this, ever. But prophecies don't stay hidden forever. 1513, Pope Julius II dies, and the College of Cardinals gathers to elect a new pope.
They choose Giovanni de' Medici,
a man of wealth, of culture, of art.
He takes the name Leo X.
Leo was not a warrior pope like Julius. He was a patron. He loved music, philosophy, beauty. He spent fortunes on art, on St. Peter's Basilica, on lavish ceremonies. But he was also afraid. Because when he took office, when he was given access to the papal vaults, he found the prophecy.
And he read it.
The manuscript predicted his reign.
Not by name, but by description.
A pope of golden beauty, a man who will sell heaven to build monuments, and in his time the church will crack.
Leo knew what that meant.
He was already selling indulgences, promising forgiveness for money to fund his basilica, and he knew somewhere in Europe someone was watching. Because in 1517, just 4 years into his papacy, a monk in Germany would nail 95 theses to a church door. Martin Luther. The Reformation. The prophecy had seen it coming. Centuries before Luther was born, before anyone could imagine the church would split.
And Leo realized something.
If this prophecy was real, if it had been accurate for 1,000 years, then what it said about the future of the church was also real. The manuscript predicted schism, division, wars fought in the name of God. It predicted the rise of new churches, new interpretations, new authorities. It predicted that Rome would lose its power.
Not all at once, but slowly, over centuries.
Until the papacy itself became symbolic, a relic, a shadow of what it once was. Leo couldn't let that be known. Because if people believed the prophecy, if they believed the church was destined to fall, then faith itself would collapse.
Why obey an institution that's already dying?
Why follow a pope who has no future? So, in 1514, Leo issued a private decree.
Silent. No public announcement, no explanation. Find every copy of this manuscript, burn them, all of them.
And they did. But you can't burn a memory. Girolamo, the monk who'd found the prophecy, had made more than one copy. He'd sent fragments to other monasteries, to scholars he trusted, to those who might preserve it. Most were found, most were destroyed. But one survived. In a small abbey in the mountains of Switzerland, hidden inside the binding of another book, sewn between the pages of a Bible commentary. It stayed there for 200 years, untouched, forgotten, until 1723. A young priest cataloguing the library noticed the binding was thicker than it should be. He carefully opened it, and there it was, the prophecy, intact. He read it, and he realized everything it had predicted up to his time had happened. The Reformation, the 30 Years' War, the splintering of Christianity into hundreds of denominations. Protestant, Lutheran, Calvinist, Anglican.
All of it foretold.
The priest wrote to Rome. He didn't say he had the full manuscript, just that he'd found references to an old prophecy, and he asked, should he send it? The response came swiftly. Burn it. Do not read it. Do not copy it. Burn it immediately. He didn't. He hid it again. And when he died, he left instructions. Let this remain hidden until the church is ready to face what it says. And so it remained. Hidden, waiting. Until 1954. 1954. A historian researching medieval manuscripts in Switzerland comes across the abbey's old records. He's looking for something unrelated, letters, land deeds, but he finds an inventory. A list of books in the library from 1723. And there's a note. One volume unidentified, sealed by order of Father Benedict, not to be opened. The historian is curious. He searches the library and he finds it. The book, dust-covered, leather cracked with age.
He opens it.
Inside, the prophecy, handwritten in medieval Latin. He photographs it, translates it, and realizes what he's found.
Not just a prophecy, but a record.
A document that had predicted everything, from the fall of Constantinople, to the Protestant Reformation, to the loss of the Papal States in 1870. Every major event in church history.
He contacts the Vatican.
In this time, they don't ask for it. They send someone, a cardinal, an archivist, an enforcer. The historian is told, politely but firmly, that this manuscript is the property of the church, that it will be returned to the Vatican archives, that it will be protected. Protected. Not studied, not published. Protected. The historian hands it over.
He has no choice.
And the manuscript returns to Rome, to the same vault where Pope Alexander had locked it away 500 years earlier, where it remains to this day. So what did the prophecy say about our time? It's about now. We don't know, not fully, because the church has never released it, never allowed it to be studied, never confirmed it even exists.
But there are hints.
In 1965, during the Second Vatican Council, a bishop mentioned, in passing, an old prophecy, one that predicted the church would face a crisis of faith in the modern age, that attendance would fall, that trust would erode, that the institution would be forced to change or fade. The comment was struck from the official record, but those who were there remember. In 2005, a Vatican archivist in an interview was asked about prophecies in the archives. He smiled uncomfortably and said, "Some things are kept locked, not because they're false, but because they're true." The interviewer pressed, "What prophecies?" The archivist didn't answer. And the interview was never published. In 2013, when Pope Benedict resigned, the first pope to do so in 600 years, some wondered, had he read something in the archives? Something that made him realize it was time to step down? We'll never know, because he never spoke of it.
Perhaps the prophecy was wrong.
Perhaps it was the delusion of a hermit in a cave, a fantasy, a coincidence. Or perhaps the Vatican knows something we don't. Perhaps they've read what's coming. And perhaps that's why, after 500 years, they still keep it locked away. Not to protect us, but to protect themselves. The prophecy remains in the dark, in the vault, waiting. But perhaps that's where some truths belong. Not hidden out of fear, but preserved until we're ready, until we can hear them without breaking. For now, let the questions linger. Let the mystery hold you. Close your eyes. Let the stone walls fade. Let the torchlight dim. The prophecy whispers still. But tonight, you don't need to chase it.